The auditorium pulsed with uneasy energy, laughter bubbling beneath the surface like a cruel undercurrent. It wasn't joy, it was mockery, thinly veiled and thick in the air. A heavy-set judge, his tie stained with dried coffee and ego, raised a clipboard like a scepter. "Good effort, young man," he sneered, his voice dripping with derision. "Next time, try something that actually makes sense." My son's hands trembled where they hovered over the model he'd poured months of soul into, his masterpiece. He didn't look up. He didn't need to. The weight of their ridicule pressed down like a storm cloud. Behind me, the snickers became deliberate, their sharpness cutting deeper with every second. There, in the audience, sat my ex-wife, Daniela, her smile smug and satisfied, her polished nails tapping against her thigh in amusement. Beside her lounged Bryce, her new husband, a man who oozed self-importance, his posture arrogant, like he was basking in our child's humiliation. What they didn't know was that I had been planning this day for months. Once, Daniela and I were a team. We'd sit up late at night at the kitchen table, guiding our son through his creations. The table would be a mess of hot glue, stray wires, and half-finished circuit boards. We laughed then, proud of the paint-stained hands and boundless ideas. I thought we were building something lasting, a family, a future. I was wrong. 3 years ago, she walked out under the pretense of a quick store run. I never saw her again until a lawyer, cold and detached, stood in her place. She took the house, the car, even some of the friends we once called ours. But she couldn't take what truly mattered, our son's brilliance. Bryce, the self-proclaimed fitness guru turned real estate mogul, tried to play the role of mentor. He arrived with flashy toys and tech buzzwords, calling his gifts cutting edge. They were hollow, more distraction than innovation. My son's creations, however, had depth. They were born not just from talent, but from vision. Daniela never saw that. Her world had become one of brunch reservations and gym selfies, too wrapped up in Bryce's cologne, which, ironically, gave our son allergic fits to see the genius growing in her own child. But I saw, I listened, and I waited. It all began with my son's latest project, an astonishing simulation of gravitational fields. Using spinning magnetic arrays, motion sensors, and a modified VR headset, he had developed a way to visualize space-time curvature. At just 10 years old, I helped with the physical build, but the heart of it, the math, the concept, the brilliance, was all him. When the school announced the district science fair, I already knew the outcome. The judging panel was facade, a few retired teachers, a local news anchor, and, of course, Bryce's golfing buddy, the man now holding the stained clipboard. Months earlier, I'd mailed him that very tie, a quiet warning. I remained in the background as the fair unfolded, invisible in plain sight. The pattern played out as expected. The judge dismissed my son's work with a smirk and a lazy wave of his hand. "Fanciful nonsense in a shiny box," he scoffed. Bryce chuckled, loud and self-congratulatory. Daniela laughed too, though hers wavered, a flicker of something uncomfortable beneath her mascara. She always could sense when something was about to shift, and then it did. The auditorium doors opened with a soft groan, and a man stepped in, clean cut, calm. His NASA badge glinted beneath the lights. "Pardon me," he said, his tone composed yet impossible to ignore. "Who's responsible for this exhibit?" The laughter stopped, snapped out of existence. "I am," my son whispered, his voice barely a thread. The NASA official walked over, unbothered by the judge or the crowd. "I'd like a word with you. In private." A woman gasped, her phone slipping from her hand. The clipboard clattered to the floor. Daniela rose, but Bryce tugged her back down, his smile now visibly cracking. I didn't move. My pulse remained steady. 6 months before, I had sent every video, diagram, and scribbled equation from my son's spiral notebook to NASA, and someone there had listened. Behind the gym, they spoke quietly. I watched from a distance as the man knelt to meet my son's eyes, asked him questions that most adults couldn't begin to understand. And my boy answered with confidence, with passion. Words like field harmonics and quantum flow spilled out of him like poetry. 15 minutes later, the man returned to the microphone. "I'd like to address the audience," he said. The The room held its breath. This young man has demonstrated an understanding of quantum field visualization that rivals our graduate researchers. His project is not just impressive, it's groundbreaking. We will be contacting his family about NASA's Young Innovators program. The silence shattered into stunned murmurs. Daniela's smile dissolved into shock, shame creeping into her expression. Bryce looked as if someone had punched the air from his chest. He folded his arms, but it was a fragile shield. His arrogance had cracked. I stepped forward, meeting Daniela's eyes. Strange, I murmured, for something they called impossible. After the fair, my son clutches a ward like a lifeline. He didn't say much, but his eyes met mine. They mocked me, he said, voice quiet. I know, I replied gently, but they won't do it again. I didn't need to raise my voice. That would have given them something to fight back against. No, I used patience, precision. My son's genius was my truth weapon, and it was sharper than anything they could have wielded. In the days that followed, Bryce's real estate empire took a hit. 2 deals crumbled. His name started slipping from school board circles. The judge quietly resigned a few weeks later. I said nothing. Daniela called, left voicemails, trying to talk about our son's future, but she had given up her right to guide it. His future belonged to him now, and to the people who believed in him when it mattered. Revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was truth, cold, undeniable, and blinding in its clarity. And in that truth, standing in the echo of everything they tried to break, I found peace, because my son had prevailed.